research without a health nugget, so it wasn't in the slot on the Google sheet, but I missed out on this opportunity not to present a health nugget, but here we go. Today I would like to present to you one or two thoughts on the glymphatic system. Now, what is the glymphatic system? You might have heard of the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system you see here pictured on the right, its connection to the circulatory system you see on the left. On the left you have the red part is blood that is pumped away from the heart, and it flows back in the blue line, which is the venous system, the return system. And interestingly enough, there's a second system that is responsible for the backflow, the return to the heart. The body makes a difference, we won't go into that, between the things that are transported to the heart via the blood and via the lymph system. The lymph system is also involved in immune function. That is a specific function of that system. Okay, so you see that the body has a lymphatic system which has something to do with draining things back into the circulatory system. But you see on the picture the brain doesn't have a lymphatic system. And it's very interesting that it was only discovered in 2012, so that was just a few years before I retired as an MD that I learned about a glymphatic system, so that I learned that the brain also has a similar system. And now it's very important to understand, our brain is about, weight-wise, about 2% of our body weight, but it takes 20% of our total body oxygen supply, 20%. The brain is such an intense energy consumer to get everything right all the time. And that boils down to, if you do the calculation in a resting situation, the brain takes 3.5 milliliters of oxygen per 100 grams of brain tissue, which means that our brains consume 50 milliliters of oxygen a minute, as you sit here. 50 milliliters, I do not know what, when you've got the water bottle there, that water bottle is, the water bottles are about 200 milliliters, so it would be a quarter of the water bottle that we usually drink of. And at the same time, the brain takes 15% of the total blood flow, 15%, which means that the perfusion of the brain per minute takes 800 milliliters. That is, how much would that, do you understand 800 milliliters? A liter would be 1,000 milliliters, which is roughly a pint. Or a quart, yeah, thank you. So the energy demand of the brain is so high that if these two things, the blood or the oxygen, either or both together, are cut off, within 10 seconds we lose consciousness. So the scientists said, how can this be that the organ in the body that has the highest energy consumption has no waste disposal system? Like in a car, when you drive, do you know what a deux chevaux is? It is a French automobile I haven't seen here in America. It has 2 horsepower, and it's the cheapest car in Europe, so the students buy it, and my sister had one, and I drove it. So you could speed when you went downhill, and as soon as it went uphill, and it was always wonderful on the Autobahn because you could overtake the the trucks driving in the wind shadow, and when it went downhill, you could move out, and then you passed the truck, and then the truck would pass you when you would go uphill, and you would play games, and it was great fun. And the smaller or let's put it this way, the bigger the car, the bigger the exhaust pipe, isn't it? When you see the trucks, they have exhaust pipes like this. And so also on this level, you need a drainage system, and that is what they came up with here. Now, can I use a microphone here, Brian? Yes? Can I use this green one? Yes, I would just like, because I do not have a pointer, what you see here right on the top left, or the upper layer, is the skull. And underneath the skull, you've got a space that is called the subarachnoid space. Basically, what you need to know there is that our brain at all times is embedded, is swimming in a fluid that is called cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. And what is interesting, and this is the discovery now, that this cerebrospinal fluid, you see this there at about 11 o'clock, that small slender blue line flows around the vessels. You see here an artery that is pumping blood away from the heart, and around the artery there's a hollow space. You see that? And through that hollow space, which this is exaggerated just to make the point, this cerebrovascular fluid that our brain and our how do you call it? I'm struggling for the English word. The nervous system that goes down our back. Yeah, the spinal cord. Thank you. The penny dropped. Is also bathed in that fluid, and as the heart pumps, this wave of pulsation goes over the whole vascular system. That's why you can feel a pulse here or wherever. And this pulse wave is what pushes that cerebrospinal fluid forward. And then it goes into the connective tissue of the brain, and that is why it is called glymphatic, because the connective tissue of the brain is called glia. These cells, they form with their broad pedestal attachments to the blood vessels, they form a second layer, which is the outer layer between the artery and that space that conducts the cerebrospinal fluid. So through these nerve cells, there are special channels that can absorb water in the cells. Now and the water, you see, these are the three blue lines. Now this fluid drains over into the vein that is on its way back to the heart. And that is, again, the mechanism that works there is by breathing, when we breathe in, we suck venous blood in direction of the heart. Is that understandable? You know, when you look at your chest and you go like this, you pull the air in, and you do not only pull air in, but you also pull blood in, and that suction also works on the brain. Therefore, breathing will be an exercise will be an important part of treating your brain well. So whatever the body wants to get rid of, it will send via this glymphatic system into the venous, into this space that is parallel to the vein. So you've got a vessel in a vessel, and that is the fascination about this. When you look at the vessel here in the brain, you see that at 10 o'clock about, you see astrocyte. That is one of the connective tissue cells in the brain, and they form these green pedestal coverings of the vessel, and they are the responsible cells for the transfer of fluid in their membranes. They've got receptors for, as I said, for water transport. The other thing that I would like to point you to is when you look at the right block of this picture, this is a little segment from the left one there, and on the left you've got the inside of the blood vessel and whatever flows there, and in the middle you've got the cells through which the substances make their way. And we're not going to read this, I just want to show you that the top two lines are things that travel through the cells. And when you look at that middle section there, it says paracellular aqueous pathway. That is when materials flow between the cells into the brain, and this is, it's beyond marvelous. How does the body know how to transport what by which pathway? How do you come up with this? This is such an incredible design. Now, the other thing that is important, and last week we spoke about sleeping and being disturbed by light at night, is that the glymphatic system doesn't work 24/7. It actually works only a few hours a day. And it works in the non-rapid eye movement phases. You might have heard of the REM phases of sleep, and you see these orange lines there. They make up about 25% of sleep time. And that is when we digest our emotional experiences, we consolidate our memories. There are different activities that go on, and that's why our eyes go like this. The eyelids are closed, but you can see the eyes. They follow whatever is happening there, and the body becomes completely flaccid. Now, the non-rapid eye movement sleep phases are predominantly early in the night, whereas the rapid eye movement phases are more towards the morning. So this means that, no, this doesn't mean anything yet. The thing you need to know is that the glymphatic system is active in the non-REM phases. So if you want to detox your brain, if you want to make sure that your brain can get rid of its waste substances, you need to get those early phases. And as I told you, 75% of our sleep time is made up of these non-REM phases. I found this slide here on the internet, 16 tools to support your glymphatic system. The first one is restful sleep. The other one is interestingly intermittent fasting. You know why? Because the later you eat, the more you burden your glymphatic system. If you have a window of time between your meals, between 12 and 16 hours from your latest day meal to your first next day meal, you alleviate your glymphatic system and you treat your brain well. I thought that was really interesting. Red light therapy, these days you can buy devices. I saw on the internet it has already conquered the cosmetic industry, because women, they buy these masks, you know, and you just see the eyes, and they have, or it's obviously for women because they need to be more beautiful as they are already. So men can never get there. So they put on these infrared masks to give to amplify the energy that is available, and that you can also get early in the morning and late in the afternoon. You've got that near infrared. Obviously, you also have it during the day. So here we have got the factor sunshine. Then you've got craniosacral therapy. That's a therapy form. Infrared sauna, warm, cold, activates the circulation. Then you've got another 2-3 therapeutic approaches: lymphatic massage, exercise and movement, lymphatic compression. The best lymphatic compression you can get is by swimming, because you put your body into the water, and the water compresses the veins as well as the lymphatic system. And everybody who's been in a swimming pool knows that after 10 minutes swimming, you need to go out to some place, because you need to expel water. Dry brushing would be helpful. Breathing, for some reason, it is known that the glymphatic system functions best if you lie on your right side. I won't explain why, because it would take a little longer. And then you need to drink enough, and your nutrition also needs to be, I don't recommend salmon, but you can take flax and walnuts and chia. And I thought what was very interesting is that the way to treat your brain well, to make your glymphatic system work optimally, contains the 8 healing factor. Eat well, exercise well, drink well, breathe well, sleep well, trust well, sunbathe, balance them all, and you'll be well. Happy Sabbath. Thank you.